been having some fun rebuilding a pair of carburetors, and I thought I'd actually share with you folk, you good folk, the issues I've been having, because this is a bit of a how-to video, my world-renowned how-to video. So it's a pair of Stromberg constant depression 175 CD2 carburetors. They come from a Rover V8 that was fitted into a forward control 101 Land Rover. And I'm rebuilding these for a customer. They came in a fairly shocking state. They're basically covered in wax and green paint. So I've basically just cleaned them up as much as I could. And that's the assembled carburetor. And then I've rebuilt them, no jet in the bottom there. I've rebuilt them using, because there was no tags on these carburetors. So working from the identification number on the needle and the basic features around the box, I was able to work with Berlin to identify that they were 175 CDSs as fitted only to the forward control 101. The CDS K12 kit that is provided will kind of more or less do that, which is great. So customer wants them back, so I thought, well, I'm going to start building these up, get them all ready. So start with the usual things. You've seen me build carburetors up before, but I was having an issue with these ones. So basically, as I'm screwing the dashpot top down, I generally work quite hard on the piston inside the dashpot, and that is the best I could get this to do. It is quite lethargic. So I appreciate it's not going to go right up to the top on a Rover V8, especially a low compression Rover V8. So it would kind of go about halfway up, and it does spring back down again, but doesn't go clonk onto the bridge. And every now and then that one doesn't actually hit the bridge with, you know, it actually leaves it about 1 millimetre or so off. That's that carburetor. If I go to this carburetor next, this is the second carburetor, locate the diaphragm. Again, no jets, because we've got adjustable jets on these things, so I always set up the diaphragm, the spring, the cover with the jet out, and then put the jet in afterwards. Now, if I push this down, okay, and lift the piston, it just stays up there. And there's no amount of faffing around that I've been able to do, even with it off. I've not been able to get this thing to behave itself, this particular carburetor. So I'm thinking, well, what's bent on here? I go through, clean everything up, of course, you clean everything up, it's all part of the ultrasonic process. And basically, you kind of want it so that in all of the orientations, the dashpot does jump on. Now, one thing you will have noticed then is that the rubber, diaphragm rubber, does invert. It doesn't pop back easily enough. Then I pop the piston in. Oh, that seems to work all right. And I put the top back on again. And after a world of faffing around, to cut a long story quite short here, you'll notice that when this goes down, there's quite a significant gap around the edge there, and I have to push that in quite hard in order to close that gap. And as soon as I do that, the piston becomes tight. So I'm thinking, right, okay, let's go back to standard. Now, rather than taking the diaphragm on and on, on and on, on and on, I've got another piston here. This one's for a adjustable needle spec, but I put the original diaphragms from these carburetors on. Now, these are much, much thinner. When I pop this in, and pop the top on, spring, first thing you notice is that it actually mates down a lot easier. It goes down a lot further, and also with the screws being in there, the piston's actually working. Okay, now I've not adjusted that in any way whatsoever. So we've identified that there is a problem with the interface between the top and the piston, sorry, the top and the diaphragm. So next thing, well, it's quite a thin diaphragm there, isn't it? And it's split, so it's going to be no good. So I can't reuse that diaphragm. Well, look at the top of the lid. Didn't look anything wrong with that. So then I put the new piston back in, and I use another top. Let's just check that isn't bent. Just going through a process of elimination. Spring. This hasn't been cleaned up properly yet. Okay. Oh, blimey, look at that, that's nice. Oh, bloody hell. So new diaphragm, original piston, new top. Oh, it works. What the fuck? What is going on there? Can you see it yet? Can you see it? slightly newer style Stromberg top, still CD2, single step. Really, really ancient CD Stromberg carburetor, 2 steps. These 2-step tops are not underlined 5 times compatible with the later diaphragms. And they don't do the diaphragms that suit this top anymore. So that would explain then what my problem is. So what I'm going to have to do is get these machined down. I've got a machine shop that can do that. But in the meantime, I can build this carburetor up now with a different pair of tops, which have still got CD2 written on them, but it works. Okay, now I can put all the screws in on the corners and get it all so it's all set up. But I'm going to have to go and find a pair of tops, change this one as well. Because the reason this is not hitting the bridge properly is because I think that the diaphragm has been pinched too tight and probably forced the diaphragm across. So we can demonstrate that really by taking the top off this carburetor. I mean, there's folk out there will be saying, lob them in the bin, fit a holly. Why? Just because something presents a problem, you've got to investigate why. Just lob it and fit a fixed jet carburetor. Variable jet carburetors are ideal for these low compression engines. And there'll be someone out there saying, oh, fit a 500 cubic feet per minute holly, oh, that'd be fine. And then you could jet it down to, you know, throttle it. What's the point? Fix these. It has been a kerfuffle though. You can see already as I've undone the screws, this top is fighting its way to get off. So this has been a bit of a battle. So these tops are going to be consigned to the machine it box. Right. So again, on this top, if I lift the piston out, nice and free. The interface between the two is fine. Drop the piston back in, no jets. Put the other top on here. Nice interface, push him up, clonk. That's what I want. And what I've done there is change the top. Just be aware of that, folks.